Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Agung Krisna Ananda Kusuma, and I'm going to explain you about my experiment, which is Mr. Garbage Dump Maximizer. So why Mr. Garbage Dump Maximizer? So many people use plastic bags in their houses to contain garbage, including in my home. For every 2 days, new plastic is used for this purpose. The use of these plastic bags for every 2 days might be too much actually. And so the solution that I give is to design a system which can track the capacity of the garbage contained in a garbage bin so that we can conclude whether the capacity of the garbage bin is maximized or not. So that is the purpose of the system, to monitor the space and the weight of the garbage bin. So this is the methodology that I do to conduct this experiment. First of all, the problem identification, which I explained before, and next is the literature study, where we consider about the possibility of to do the experiment, the cost, the availability, the ease, the standards, the PCB and insulation, the type of data logging, the data processing, and the time it needs to conduct this experiment. Now, after we have come to the conclusion that this experiment is possible, we continue to the system planning. So in the system planning, we consider about the functionality, which we can define it in a flowchart, and then the component listing and the circuitry. Then we go to the system production, where we assemble all parts and solder all the connection between the components. Then we conduct a small test whether our device is reliable and whether we got the desired data or not. If no, we go to the system planning and redo the steps. But if yes, then we do the experiment, run the system, and finish. So this is the resulted flowchart of the system. So first of all, it will initialize the SD card, and if the initialize is successful, we change the state into 1. If no, the state is 0, and then we go into several process here. So get data from the RTC, from the load cell, and from the ultrasonic, and then display it on the LCD. Before we write our data to the SD card, we must check whether the button is high and also the state is 1. So this button is used to determine whether we want to store the data or not. If no, then we go back again to initialize the SD card and go to through the process again. But if yes, it needs to check whether the SD card is initialized or not. If no, then we go back to the initialize SD card process and go back to the whole process. But if yes, then we write to the SD card, and then the system loops again to do it all over again. So these are the main tools to do it. Aside from cables and PCB. So the brain I use is the Arduino Pro Micro. Why? Because it is small, it is cheap, and it is enough for the system to run reliably. And then the second one is the load sensor, and then the ultrasonic sensors, LCD display, SD card module, and real-time clock module. So this is the basic architecture. So the ultrasonic sensor will be placed at the bottom of the cover, and the load cell is is placed at the bottom of the garbage bin, and it will send the data to the Arduino Pro Micro, and the switch and the real-time clock also will provide the data to the Arduino. So as you can see, the blue line is the input, and the output is the LCD display. The LED, this LED is to show the state, and the SD card module. So this is basically an input and an output devices. So this is the resulted schematic. You can see the pin function. So basically every pin have its own functionality. The SPI is pin D14 to D16. The I2C is pin D2 and D3, and etc. So next we go to the production. This is the resulted soldering wiring, and the programming. You can go to my GitHub to get the code, but I'm going to explain you about how the system works. So we go first of all, we include all the libraries, and then the variables for the load cell, the RTC, ultrasonic, LCD display, the SD card, and for the millis function I'll explain you later. And then the void setup is to set up all the pins in the Arduino, and then we go to the void loop. As you can see, we first check the SD card, the initialized SD card. If yes, the state is 1. If no, the state is 0. And then we go to the RTC process, load cell process, ultrasonic process, and the LCD display process. And then we check whether the button is high and the state is high. If yes, it will check the time for which the Arduino has run. So if it's above, so if it is above or equal 15 seconds, then it will write to the SD card. If no, then it will skip it. So this is the condition if the button is low but the state is 1, and the else condition. And this system will delay 1000 for a more accurate display. So that is the programming part. Then this is the result and the testing. So as you can see, the picture on the left is the result, that is the device, Mr. Garbage Dump Maximizer, and the sensor is placed at the cover of the garbage bin, and the load sensor is placed at the bottom of the garbage bin, and the picture on the right is the picture taken when it is gone on the testing, running the system. Oh yeah, before I'm going to show you how the process of how the system works in real life. So this is the device, everyone. So this is the workings of the Mr. Garbage Dump Maximizer. So as you can see, on this it monitors the weight and the space of the garbage can. Now if you see that the result is 0.17 kilograms and 14 centimeter of space. Yeah, I know this is very stupid of me. So as you can see, the weight sensor goes at the bottom of the garbage bin. And this is the ultrasonic sensor is placed, and these are the garbage. Now if we want to take the data, we need to press this button first. As you can see, this is the indicator. This is the indicator for that. It is said that this means the data is successfully inserted into the SD card over here. So this is the SD card module. And for example, if you want, for example, to throw away garbage, because if we lift this cover, it will give an error in the space reading. So what we can do is that we turn off the data input, and then we can open and throw away our garbage, and then we close again. As you can see, the weight is increased 0.01 kilogram. And if we want to take the data again, we can turn on, and it will monitor the weight and the space of the Mr. Garbage Dump Maximizer. So that's it for this experiment. Thank you. Okay, so after we conduct the experiment, we get our data. So as we can see, here are the above is the weight and the below is the height. So this experiment is conducted for 38 hours based on the power bank batteries with the capacity of 3750 milliamp hours. So as we can see here that the weight is first gradually increased until it reaches in the middle, but there is a spike. Okay, now that spike is actually that indicates my nanny press the garbage, so make it denser. Okay, so for several times actually, and then it go back flatten again, and there's another spike which it indicates another pressing, and then it gradually decreases, and then the last spike, and then finally decreases. So this is the garbage for 2 days. And the height, as we can see, the height is very high, so around 30, but at the only for a quarter part of the graph, it's become around 10 to 5. So this conclude that for the only ultrasonic sensor only, it cannot represent the capacity of the garbage bin. So if the as you can see, even if the weight is still below 1 kilogram, but the space here is already the garbage is already high, so we can't just conclude from the ultrasonic sensor, so we need weight. So okay, this is the result of data, and here are the conclusion. So Mr. Garbage Dump Maximizer are able to monitor the weight and the height of the garbage contained in the garbage bin, as we can see, and the spaces in the garbage bin runs out faster than the occurrences of overweight in containing the garbage, because as I told you before, that the height on the a quarter part of the graph is high, but the other part is low, and the place where the system is set, in my case my home, has maximized the capacity of the garbage bin, and the use of only ultrasonic sensor is not enough to overall illustrate the garbage bin capacity. Okay, so that's it from my presentation. Thank you for your attention.